Welcome to Sylvie's technique vlog. In this section I'm going to be talking about recovery, basically. So lots of people ask me how I'm able to fight fights kind of back to back or really close together. I fight a lot. I tend to fight at least 2 times a month, sometimes 4 to 6, and at times those fights are really close together, like 1 or 2 days apart. So last night I had a fight where I got kicked in the leg a lot, really hard, and it's really stiff now. And so in this technique vlog, I'm going to be talking about the things that you do in order to be able to fight the way that I do. So the number one thing is that the way you train all the time, every day, is towards having strength and ability to recover. So I train really hard. I train through small niggling injuries all the time. So I really don't think of them as injuries. They're just things that hurt, and that basically I think has trained my body to recover from them really quickly. So there are certain injuries that if you keep training on them, they just never get better, and that's a problem, but you can learn to train around them is the kind of thing. So in this section, I'm actually just going to show you what I'm doing for my leg. So I got kicked in the leg really hard by my opponent a bunch of times last night. And it's black right now because Pinu had me do a boron medicine treatment on it that I'll put that in the section for my patrons in the longer part of this video. So when this public part is over, click on the link in the description. If you're a patron, go on over to the longer video and I'll show you. I took a little video of what that boron medicine is. But in general, a lot of people, when they get kicked in the leg and it gets really stiff, they're like, it's hard to walk, it's hard to move, so I'm just gonna sit a lot. This is the worst thing you can do. I don't use ice. Pinu was telling me to use ice. I use heat. But so basically straight away I put a heating pad on my leg, and the things that I'm doing in order to keep flexibility in that leg are what's going to allow me to come back to training much faster and get back into fighting much faster. You don't want to like leave injuries just as they are in order to do nothing and recover. That's not how it works. So something that I'm doing for my leg right now is basically just trying to get as much flexibility back into it as possible. So I'm doing things like this. Basically just slowly, kind of gently bending it and bending it and bending it to keep the flexibility in it, because when you lose the flexibility and it gets really stiff, it just stays stiff and the less you're able to move. So that is the technique vlog on when you get blasted in the leg by leg kicks, this is the next day, and I was doing this last night as well. Immediately after the fight, you want to try to keep as much flexibility in that leg as possible. And I use heat in order to get more circulation. You want the blood circulating because the reason it's stiffening up is inflammation and swelling and blood pooling in that area. So if you guys want to see the rest of this video where I'll talk a little bit more in depth about the various things I do for recovery, click on the link in the description and head on over to the patron longer version. So there are all kinds of things can get hurt when you're fighting a lot. So if I have 2 fights back to back, guaranteed my shins are going to be banged up a little bit. So I do have a free video on YouTube that's how to use hot water massage on your shins. You want to do that straight away after fights if you have another one coming up, just to get the circulation going, but you're not going to have the shins be like not hurting for the next one. So a couple of things that you want to take into consideration when you're like keeping flexibility is you want to be kind of gentle in what you're doing as you're recovering. You call it like active recovery. So immediately after your fight, I'm talking like get out of the ring, you're still sweaty and greasy and gross. You want to have some kind of like, if you can feel anything directly after your fight. Sometimes you can't. I knew my leg was going to hurt. I didn't know it was going to hurt this much. You just want to keep moving. So it's hard because a lot of us fight at night. So you fight and then you just go to bed. Like a couple hours later, you're generally like lying in bed, or I don't know, if you cut weight and you want to go celebrate, some people go and do the whole like drinking and eating all the things they couldn't eat when they were trying to cut weight. I don't think this is the greatest idea. You're basically already inflamed from your fight, and now you're going to go eat sugar and alcohol or lots of carbs because you want pizza and you weren't able to eat it while you were cutting weight. Things like this, you're basically pumping your body full of things that are going to exacerbate the inflammation that you're feeling. So I understand people want to celebrate. I don't agree with people wanting to celebrate in this up and down thing. Depending on what kind of fighter you are and what you want out of what you're doing. If you're listening to me and you're asking how I'm able to fight so much, it's because I don't do the roller coaster up and down all the time. I'm basically always preparing my body to be recovering and getting better. So after a fight, I don't do any kind of like binge sugar, carbs, alcohol, anything like that. I also don't take anti-inflammatories. I basically only use heat and active recovery and stretching and things like this. So I will put the video of what Pinu had me do. I had never seen this before, but what's interesting about what Pinu had me do with this Boron medicine, he says there's medicine in the leaf that you're heating up and then putting on the spot that hurts. So you are actually putting some kind of medicine on it. But essentially what it's doing by heating the leaf and putting it on the inflamed, painful area, you're just putting heat on it, which is what I've been doing. So if my shins are dinged up, put heat on it. If my elbow's been hit, put heat on it. If my leg's been kicked, put heat on it. But the main thing about active recovery and being able to train straight away or go into another fight right away is that you basically never take as your interpretation of something hurting to pull down and become immobile. Like, moving is all the best thing. So one of the things, two things that I've really been working on, because I injured my shoulder many fights ago and I've been fighting and training with it, is I've been hanging, and then now that I have my leg, it actually works perfectly with another thing that I've been working on, because I have quite tight Achilles tendons, is I've been squatting. So I basically hang and squat, hang and squat. That's perfect for what my leg is going through right now, but it's really hard because of what my leg is going through. So I'm gonna see if I can set up this camera to show you my hanging and my squatting. I don't do this only after my fight. I do this all day during training. I try to get 10 minutes of hanging, and I do like 30 seconds at a time, which means I'm doing like 20 sets of hanging and squatting every day. So it's gonna look kind of like this. If I can get it to record. So I'll do this between rounds on the bag, between shadow boxing, things like that. On that squat, my heels can't touch the ground when I'm in a full squat position. They pop up off the ground because of my flexibility, and I end up leaning forward a lot. So basically what I do is I hold something in front of me so that I can put my heels on the ground, and I'm kind of leaning back, and I'm using this as a like assisted pull-up kind of thing to increase the flexibility in my legs so that eventually I can just pop a squat like that without having to hold on to anything. With my leg the way that it is, I'm basically grabbing onto something and easing my way back, just to kind of, in the way that you would like when you're stretching, you kind of like pump and just kind of ease your way into a static stretch of like trying to touch your toes or something like that. Something that I really want to stress, I guess, as a technique of Sylvie's Wolverine-like recovery is that we kind of like to see something hurting as being now an excuse to stop everything or be hedonistic or kind of like reward ourselves because we're hurt so we can't train kind of thing. I've had very few like being rung. I got concussed in a fight once pretty badly. It was the only time that I got very, very serious about my recovery and actually stopped, full stop, for 10 days to take care of my brain. At the time I wasn't keto. The more research I've done, I think that if ever that happened to me again, I would immediately go very hardcore keto, maybe even fasting, and just taking MCT oil for like 3 days or something like that to protect my brain. The reason I talk about something like that is that at the moment that you've received impact or injury after a fight, like immediately after a fight, is when you should really, really be taking care of yourself. People in the West really like to do it on the front side, and I think Thai kids probably do it on the front side too. When you're preparing for your fight, you're eating good, you're sleeping good, you're taking care of your body because you don't want to get sick, you want to be at like close to 100% for your fight as you possibly can. I take care of myself before a fight, but I also flip side it, which is that directly after a fight, you really want to take care of yourself for that recovery because you've just gone through something. So you need to take care of your body having just gone through something that's causing it pain and injury, but you can't only do it like 5 days before a fight or 5 days after a fight. You basically, in the way that you train, want to be teaching your body how to recover faster. That's why I'm hanging all the time in my training between all of my rounds. That's why I'm squatting now between all of my rounds and things like this, is I'm basically teaching my body to recover faster so that I can do what I do. So for those of you who ask me, how do you do this many fights back to back? I'm hurt anyway. That's why mentally I can kind of do it, is it's like my shin's gonna hurt anyway. But I also have done a lot of work in my training purposefully to teach my body how to recover fast. And I think that's really important. So active recovery, stretching, range of motion, and heat, and not eating and drinking things that are gonna exacerbate your inflammation directly after a fight are really important. So stay tuned for that video of the Baran style that Pinu had me do, which I think is really, really cool. Alex was doing it as well on his arm. Alex lives at the gym. He's an Italian kid who's been here since he was about 12. He just turned 18. So he's basically been raised like a Thai kid in the gym, which is really cool. So he was super used to this Baran medicine, and it was my first time. So he was pretty relaxed about it. But yeah, that's Sylvie's technique vlog on recovery. And thank you to all of my patrons who make this kind of content possible. Alex, how do you do it? You pulled over.
Huh?
You put over.
Yeah, like this. Like this for what?